Story 1. A cow chewed my internet cable in half, so I stripped the cable down and twisted and taped all the cables back together to avoid buying a new one. Story 2. If there is a small amount of something to wipe off the counter, I tear off a corner of a paper towel rather than using an entire piece. Story 3. I bring home shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and soap from work. The company I work for manufactures products for high-end hotels, spas, and stores. We receive all the excess items. I haven't had to buy personal care products for years, and I share with my friends as well. I also donate sample-sized products to shelters and outreach programs. Story 4. Last night, we went to a comedy show in a theater that didn't allow outside food or drink. I brought my large bottle of Pedialyte by stating it was medically necessary to avoid dehydration. Story 5. I keep every rubber band, twist tie, tiny plastic bag, screw, nail, button, and spare part in an organizer. I also keep manuals and warranties in a file cabinet. Story 6. I choose what to eat based on what is going bad. I have plenty of money, but I prefer sandwiches or a salad before I let vegetables or bread go to waste. Story 7. Spaghetti sauce jars can be reused for many purposes in my pantry, as can large plastic cheese ball containers. Story 8. Oh, let me count the ways. The biggest one is volunteering to work at events so I can attend for free. Often, very little work is required, and I can enjoy the festival, concert, or food and spirits tasting event after my shift or on breaks. Story 9. I don't pay for ad-free services, even though buying a premium subscription for a year costs less than half of one paycheck. I don't care. I'm not giving YouTube $13 a month. YouTube is free, and I'll watch 5 seconds of a skippable ad. Story 10. I want an air fryer. There's a life insurance company that will give you a £100 Amazon voucher after 3 months of having a policy with them. I have low-value coverage that costs me £5 a month, so in 3 months, I will have spent £15 and be able to buy a nice air fryer, then cancel the policy. If I die before then, my loved ones will receive £10,000. It's a win-win. If you look around, there's always something like this to take advantage of. It just takes a bit of effort. Story 11. I had a phase of buying cheese slices and then buying burgers at the drive-thru without cheese. I make over $100,000 a year. Story 12. If it is yellow, let it mellow. We live in town and our water bill is high. I am also pregnant and using the restroom every 30 minutes, sometimes even more, so it does not make sense to flush every time. When we warm the water for showers, I fill a pitcher until it gets hot. I save it to water my many plants or refill the pets' water bowls. So far, it has worked out pretty well. I do not know if we have saved any money, but it makes me feel better knowing that I am trying to cut down on water use. Story 13. I wear underwear until they have holes, socks until they have holes, and shoes until the soles are falling out. I drive a 33-year-old truck, and my backup vehicle is 55 years old. I have 6 figures in savings. Story 14. I often choose the bargain version of a product. If it doesn't work out, I may have to purchase the higher quality version. The truth is that the 90% of the time I succeed easily compensates for the 10% of the time I fail. Story 15. Costco food court worker. Would you like some paper plates with your large Costco pizza party? Having bought 2 pizzas for personal use. Thanks. These soccer kids love paper plates. I would appreciate as many as you can spare. Story 16. Saving all jars I can for food storage. If the glass jar has a shape I like, that peanut butter jar will be saved. Story 17. I always pack lunch and walk for 1 hour to avoid a 6-pound train fare, which would otherwise be a 20-minute journey. I also take bananas from work for breakfast on days when I am at home. Story 18. When I wash my hands right before a meal, I tend to use a paper towel to dry them off, and then I use that same damp paper towel during my meal. I feel like it's a waste to throw away a presumably clean paper towel that was only used once to wipe freshly cleaned hands. If I'm not eating a meal soon, I will use it to clean up a mess I made earlier in the sink, on the counter, or on the floor. Story 19. I live alone, and doing grocery shopping at the dollar store often works in my favor. Even though the package sizes are smaller, it suits me well since larger packages tend to get stale before I can finish them. Story 20. I added water to the body wash bottle to get more use out of it, even though I could buy a lifetime supply for many people without impacting my finances. Story 21. When I click on something on Amazon that interests me, I check all the options on that page to see if any of the colors are cheaper. Often, there is one or two items being discontinued and sold for half or a third of the price of the others. As long as it isn't absolutely unattractive compared to what I really want to buy, I will choose it instead. Story 22. I own and operate a successful home-based business and work from home. I make sandwiches for my lunches, preparing 10 at a time and freezing them. I use generic sandwich bags, which are less than half the price of brand-name bags. The bags come in a box of 300 for about $7, or approximately 2.3 cents each. When I take a sandwich out of a frozen bag, I cannot throw it away. I rinse it out, let it dry, and collect the 10 bags over the course of 2 work weeks. When I make another round of sandwiches, I reuse the bags. My wife shakes her head and rolls her eyes at me, considering our annual income is in the 6-figure range, while I am reusing sandwich bags that cost only a few cents each. Story 23. I love ramen. I occasionally go out for nice food and enjoy a good high-class restaurant. However, ramen packs are my go-to comfort food at home when I don't feel like cooking. Story 24. Wash solo cups and reuse them. I also love when, at a party, people put their names on the cups. At the next party, they can try to get their name back, or others compete for different names. Story 25. No delivery service. If I'm getting takeout, I'm picking it up. It costs too much to pay for delivery and tip. Story 26. I will wrap my sandwich for work in aluminum foil and reuse that piece sometimes for weeks if I can avoid ripping it. Story 27. I wear my shoes until they are literally falling apart. Then I use a new pair that I received as a gift about 5 to 7 years ago. I have around 15 pairs waiting in line. It is a lifetime of footwear for me, I suppose. Story 28. I still go shopping at secondhand clothing stores, used hiking boots and equipment, and old or expired canned goods. I'm well past the time in my life when I need to do that. I'm always prepared for the next economic downturn, and I believe one is right around the corner. Fingers crossed. Story 29. Sleeping on a piece of foam and cardboard. Life was quite challenging for a while, but now I am earning a good income. I still refuse to purchase a regular bed. Story 30. I save all the paper serviettes I am given in coffee shops and use them instead of buying tissues. I have a big collection. Story 31. I am a dumpster diver. It saves me a lot of money, provides things I would never buy but could use, and gives me a treasure-finding boost of excitement. Both the soles of my cheap work boots have come off, but only the front of the shoes. I used black duct tape around them to make them usable again. I dumpster dive at night so no one will see them. I am not about to buy new shoes for dumpster diving that will eventually fall apart. Story 32. Only take my kids to Disney during the least expensive times of the year. It makes a difference between a $2,000 vacation and a $4,000 vacation. The parks and resorts are the same. Story 33. I make a lot of money, yet I absolutely hate to pay delivery fees and tips. Therefore, I always go to pick it up. Story 34. Dollar Tree deodorant. Occasionally, you may find one that does not have enough moisture, so you can run it under the faucet, and then it works fine. Story 35. I stopped tipping for food and drink, except at sit-down restaurants where the worker does something noteworthy beyond facilitating a business transaction. With the cost of coffee, pizza, and beer at breweries, I feel overwhelmed by all the tipping. I understand it is how they earn their income, but given the rising costs of food and drink, it's already challenging for me to save money. Story 36. I feel guilty about my addiction to paper towels. I try to feel a little better by reusing them after drying my hands. I fold them after they dry and put them in a tissue box. Story 37. Refilling my salt and pepper shakers at home with collected takeout ones from places like McDonald's. Whenever I know someone is making a run, I ask them to pick me up a few. The same applies to paper plates whenever a group orders pizza. Story 38. When I have points to use for discounted fuel, I wait until my tank is nearly empty to use them to get the maximum discount possible. This can be foolish because I sometimes end up buying gas on a more expensive day. Story 39. It has been 10 to 15 degrees Celsius in my home all winter because I cannot and will not pay a $400 monthly gas bill. Coats are free if you already own them. Story 40. I passed a coin exchange that had a lot of change in it and I took some. I collect coins and sometimes it's a good way to find older or foreign ones. Story 41. I buy the $15 Walmart shoes and I can usually stretch them for a year. I don't see the point in paying a lot for something I will just end up damaging. I also have the ability to get appliances at a much cheaper rate than the general public with my employee discount, but I prefer to use old appliances from customers if they are still functional. I'm also very careful about food waste. I measure all my food out to exact portion sizes to minimize waste as much as I can. Story 42. Press-on nails, Gel X, and at-home gel manicures, you get the point. I'm not going to a salon, but my nails stay done. Story 43. If I am at a fast food restaurant, I usually take sauces, napkins, straws, and some other items home with me. Story 44. I like to use a single-serve coffee machine with a reusable filter. I make coffee and then add more water to the same 2 tablespoons of coffee to make up to 3 cups for myself. Story 45. I buy many secondhand items on Marketplace or Kijiji. Sometimes they are not even used. The seller simply bought more than they needed. I have purchased tires, tools, building supplies, and car parts, saving thousands of dollars. A couple of weeks ago, I bought brand new flooring for about 40% of the retail cost, so I will have new flooring in my kitchen and bathrooms. I also acquired a timing belt set for my car at about 30% of the new retail price because someone bought it for their vehicle but had an accident before installing it. I check the ads frequently, and if it's something I need, I have cash ready to buy. Story 46. I ordered separate tickets to use multiple coupons. I know it is annoying for the cashier, but I learned it from my experience as a cashier. Story 47. I kept all those takeaway plastic containers as an alternative to Tupperware. After using them a few times in the microwave, I noticed that microplastics were coming off. I was later diagnosed with bowel cancer. Story 48. I am a pharmacist. I regularly buy my medications at dollar stores. There is no way I am spending $10 for a tube of Neosporin when I can get it for less than a quarter of that price. Story 49. I buy towels at a discount, usually less than $10 each. I use them for several years, then they become dog towels for bath time, and later they turn into shop rags. I keep towels for over 10 years. Shop around and change your auto or home insurance every year. Can be a huge hassle, but you can save a lot. I also tend to eat the 39-cent bags of ramen noodles for lunch at work, even though I earn a 6-figure income. This is about being frugal as much as it is about enjoying inexpensive ramen. Frugal tip: check all your credit cards or services for perks. We get free Netflix and Peacock due to other services we use. Story 50. My wife cuts my hair. It started during the COVID-19 pandemic when my barber shut down, but she's actually quite skilled, and it's hard to beat the cost and convenience. Story 51. I don't know if this really counts, but I refuse to have anything delivered. I will just go pick it up myself. Tips are exclusively for good servers at restaurants. Everyone else can go away. Story 52. Dumpster diving. I can't see perfectly good packaged food go to waste just because it's one day past its best-by date. Story 53. I prefer being frugal instead of cheap. However, if I see something valuable on the curb or at a garage sale, I'm interested. Story 54. I have a tendency to question any expenditure over $20 unless it is non-discretionary spending. I also overanalyze those expenditures because I want the best of anything. I expect these items to be almost perfect when I buy them, and they are usually not. This leads me to regret the purchase and causes me to spend even less in the future. Strangely, vacations are the one thing I spend money on without a care in the world, and I have never regretted them. Story 55. I take toilet paper and paper towels from work. My rent is more than half of my take-home pay, which is $2,300 a month for a studio apartment in this area of Silicon Valley. I feel bad for doing it because my employer is a great person, but every bit helps. I also take hand soap and cleaning supplies occasionally. Story 56. When I was a broke college student and my headset's cable stopped working, I would buy a brand new headset, replace the new cable with the old one in the box, and return it as defective. Story 57. I will spend 10 minutes looking at the different types and sizes of bags of pasta or rice at the grocery store, then choose the one that costs 10 cents less. If that were my job, I would earn 60 cents an hour. Story 58. Cycling. All of my friends buy a new bike every few years. I did that once, realized that top-of-the-line bikes are just bikes, and went back to my reliable hardtail and affordable gravel bike. Story 59. My mom made a point after our dad passed away to take my brother and me to restaurants as she could afford so we could learn manners and how to act in public. My brother and I would secretly pack her purse with the soda crackers from the table. She received compliments from others on our good behavior and on having a purse full of crackers. Story 60. Pulling over if I see something interesting on the side of the road. I have found some cool treasures. Story 61. Sharing a drink with my friend at restaurants so I don't have to pay the extra almost $4 for a cup of soda. Story 62. I reuse resealable bags. I've reused plastic wrap. I haven't bought paper towels since I moved into my apartment 2 years ago. I have 2 rolls that I keep in a cabinet, and I never reach for them. They are there for emergencies, but those emergencies mostly involve wiping up cooking oil that spills over the lip of the container. I've actually grown to prefer the cheap single-ply toilet paper over the fluffy, expensive kind. I decided to treat myself to the nicer toilet paper the last time I restocked, and I regret it. Story 63. I do the Ross Geller thing at hotels and take everything from the bathroom. I have so many tiny bottles of conditioner, but I don't actually use it. Story 64. I pick up empty bottles and cans from the ground. Recycling one pays the equivalent of 20 to 30 cents, but it adds up over time. Story 65. I haven't bought gift wrapping paper in years. I usually cut up brown paper grocery bags and draw a simple motif on the reverse side. However, right after I moved, I had some leftover butcher paper from wrapping my glassware, so I used that instead. It's inexpensive, but people seem to actually love the handmade vibe, and it's fun to do. Story 66. I laughed at a Reader's Digest story I read when I was young about a high school student who brought friends home after school and found her dad had hung wet paper towels all over the kitchen to dry so he could use them again. It was so embarrassing. I'm older now. If I clean up water with a paper towel, it will be hung up to dry. Story 67. I used to buy a bottle of milk, then split it in half and add water because in my mind, it tasted the same. I could get 2 for 1, so why not? Now, I'm not as frugal and buy the better quality, but I often think about that. Story 68. Whenever I place my online grocery order with Sainsbury's or Tesco, most of the items I purchase are from loyalty program offers. I am quite reluctant to buy things at full price. Normally, I buy a large quantity of a certain item, such as halloumi cheese, when it is on sale, but when it is not, I do not buy it. I always think, why pay full price when I can find something cheaper? Since I live alone, it is easy to manage my purchases. On the rare occasions I go into a supermarket, mostly just as a supplement, I like to visit just before closing time to see what is on clearance, no matter the supermarket, whether it is Marks and Spencer or Aldi. I am becoming very frugal. Story 69. I always check near the dumpster of my apartment complex. Often, when people move out or have larger objects they don't want to throw into the compactor, they leave them in the enclosure next to the dumpster. Many people discard surprisingly good items. This year alone, I recovered 4 working televisions, 2 of which were smart TVs. I also found 3 original Xbox consoles, an Xbox One S, and an original Xbox 360 that isn't red-ringed, along with various pieces of furniture, knickknacks, tools, and an entire desktop computer and a Dell PowerEdge server. I even got a nearly new Shark robot vacuum that only needed a fresh battery to run great. I have probably collected a few $1,000s worth of items for free by salvaging and occasionally restoring things that people throw out. As a child, I was embarrassed by the idea of dumpster diving, but as an adult, it's absolutely thrilling and fun to see what I might find next. Story 70. First dates. I meet up with her for coffee or maybe one alcoholic drink in a bar. We arrive separately and depart separately. This has been a source of disagreement between me and several dates. I prefer going to a nice restaurant where we can relax and connect. I don't know what emotionally engage means, but I'm starting to wish that whoever taught millennials and Generation Z all this therapy language would be held accountable. I also do not care what Her Royal Highness prefers. Unless she is volunteering to pay for the nice restaurant and we know she isn't, then I can decide where we go. Why? Because far too many women use dating apps for free meals. So, I use inexpensive coffee dates as a way to filter out the users. Thus, I am straightforward about it. The girls who genuinely want to spend time with me seem to have no problem connecting in a Starbucks store. Story 71. My husband dislikes this, but I save good bags from the grocery store and takeout. You never know when you will need them. Story 72. I prefer shopping at thrift stores for clothing and home goods instead of other stores. You can find many high-quality items for much less than the retail price. Story 73. I keep my wardrobe 80% thrifted or from hand-me-downs, with 20% purchased from stores for essentials like underwear, shoes, socks, and intimate clothing. I always check the clearance section at grocery stores, as they often have great deals. I buy my groceries from outlets or well-priced stores like Winco. I search online for free items such as furniture, ensuring they are of good quality. Story 74. We have a large local bakery with outlet stores that offer a variety of fresh bread and other groceries, along with a section for discounted bread, primarily sourced from grocery store returns. On the first Saturday of the month, this bread is available for $1, and I take advantage of it. I once got 18 hamburger buns for $1 on the day I was hosting a barbecue. Story 75. When coupons are limited to a certain amount per person, I ask my relatives to buy more. Sometimes, I ask for sugar packets and spoons at the cafe next to my job instead of buying them. Although it's not common anymore, I used to check the coin return on payphones to see if anyone left change. I still pick up change on the ground unless it's very dirty. Story 76. If I can create or build something myself instead of buying it, I will. For example, I constructed a deck on my house using wood salvaged from abandoned houses and mines. I created a carport from logs because a cord of wood costs only $2, in addition to gas and time. I also built my mother a chicken coop entirely out of salvaged wood. Story 77. I refuse to throw out old shoes unless they are damaged beyond my ability to repair them. I just keep replacing the insoles and sewing or gluing holes. They are so comfortable, and for some reason, I have always disliked shoe shopping, so I avoid it whenever I can. Story 78. I cut my own hair and have for the last 20 years. I have a very good income and tend to spend freely in other areas of my life. For some reason, I just don't like paying $30 to $40 every week for something I can do myself in half the time. Story 79. I cut my own hair. In my area, the minimum basic haircut for a woman is about 70 Canadian dollars. It was tough at first, but now it's second nature, and the long layers really suit me. Story 80. Boil and bag meals can be cooked in kettles in hotel rooms. I am not paying for room service or hotel restaurant prices. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.